Okay, so I'm still trying to catch up. So this is the Daf Yomi for March 10th. This is Sanhedrin 83. Man, I thought that talking about the Talmud would be a firestorm, but I ended up doing a video about something that One for Israel put out, the missionary group from Israel, the Christian missionaries, trying to unnaturally redefine the Hebrew word Alma in Isaiah 7:14. Oh my gosh. Then the comments you get, and then you should check them out. Oh my. So here we go. Sanhedrin 83. Maybe I'll back up. It says one is not liable for their performance. Okay, neither due to non-priesthood. If a non-priest performs one of those rites in the temple, he is not liable to receive the death penalty, nor due to the performance of any of these rites in a state of ritual impurity, nor due to the performance of any of these rites as a priest lacking the requisite priestly vestments, nor due to the performance of any of these services without the washing of his hands and feet. The reason for the lack of liability is that in all these cases, additional rites must be performed in order to complete the service. One is liable for performing the service outside the temple or performing the service as a non-priest in a state of ritual impurity, etc., only when performing a ritual that completes the service. So from the Baraita, one may infer, but one who burns the offering on the altar in one of these circumstances, including in a state of ritual impurity, is liable. What? Is it not teaching that he is liable to receive death at the hand of heaven? And there is proof from the Baraita to resolve Rav Acha bar Huna's dilemma? The Gemara rejects that proof. No, he is liable for violating a prohibition without the punishment of death. The Gemara asks, but according to that understanding, as for the non-priest who is mentioned in the Baraita together with the priest who performs the temple service in a state of impurity, is he too liable for violating prohibition and not death if he burns the offering on the altar? But isn't it written, quote, and the non-priest who approaches shall be put to death? Numbers 18, verse 7. The Gemara answers, do not extrapolate the liability of a non-priest from the liability of a virtually impure priest. As this case of ritual impurity is as it is, that case of a non-priest is as it is. Each situation is discussed independently. The Gemara asks, is that to say by inference that a priest who pours oil onto a meal offering and one who mixes the oil into the meal offering in a state of ritual impurity does not violate even a prohibition? But isn't it taught in Baraita, from where is a prohibition against pouring oil and against mixing oil in a state of ritual impurity derived? It is derived from a verse, as the verse states, and they shall be sacred to their God, and they shall not profane the name of their God. For the fire offerings of the Lord, the bread of their God, they offer. Leviticus 21, verse 6. The Gemara answers, no proof may be cited from that verse, as the prohibition against performing temple rites that do not complete the service in a state of impurity is by rabbinic law, and the verse and a mere support, not a Torah prohibition. The Gemara raised an objection from a Baraita. You can check Tosefta, Zevachim 12:17, and I have. Yeah, okay. And these are they who are liable to receive death at the hand of heaven. Among those enumerated is an impure individual who performed the temple service. The Gemara concludes, this is a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rav Sheshet and proof that an impure individual who performs the temple service is liable to receive death at the hand of heaven. And young priests and zealots may kill only one who is liable to receive death at the hand of heaven. Okay, in order to discuss the matter itself, the Gemara cites the Tosefta. So, and these are they who are liable to receive death at the hand of heaven, one who partakes of untithed produce, and a richly impure priest who partook of a richly pure Terumah, and a non-priest who partook of Terumah, and a non-priest who performed the temple service, and a richly impure priest who performed the temple service, and a priest who was richly impure who immersed that day, and is waiting for nightfall for the purification process to be completed, and who performed the temple service, and a priest lacking the requisite priestly vestments, and a priest who has not yet brought an atonement offering to complete his purification process as a leper or zav, and a priest who did not wash his hands and feet before beginning the temple service, and the priest who performed the temple service while intoxicated with wine, and priests who performed the temple service with overgrown hair on their heads, because they're supposed to be, they're supposed to have clean cut, right? Okay, the Baraita continues, but as a priest who performed the temple service while uncircumcised or an acute mourner on the day that one of his close relatives dies, or a priest who performs the temple service while seated, are not punished with death at the hand of heaven. Rather, they are liable for violating a prohibition. With regard to a blemished priest who performs the temple service, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says he is punished with death at the hand of heaven, and the rabbis say he is liable only for violating a prohibition. So whenever it says the rabbis, it means the majority. and we go by the majority. Here we go. And as the Torah states, the halacha only in the case of one who misuses consecrated property unwittingly. There is a dispute with regard to one who intentionally performed an action of misuse of consecrated property. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says he is punished with death at the hand of heaven, and the rabbis say he is liable for violating a prohibition. The Gemara elaborates. It was taught in the Braita that one who partakes of untithed produce is liable to receive death at the hand of heaven. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive this halacha? The Gemara answers, as Shmuel says in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, from where is it derived that one who partakes of untithed produce is punished with death at the hand of heaven? It is derived from a verse, as it is written, quote, they shall not desecrate the sacred items of the children of Israel, which they will set apart unto the Lord. Leviticus 22:15. From the fact that it is formulated in the future tense, which they will set apart, it is clear that the verse is speaking about items that are destined to be separated in the future. That is untithed produce from which terumah and tithes will be separated. And the Tana derives the punishment by means of a verbal analogy. The term of desecration written with regard to untithed produce is derived from the term of desecration written with regard to an impure priest who partakes of terumah. See Leviticus 22, verse 9. Just as there, with regard to terumah, he is punished with death at the hand of heaven, so too here, with regard to untithed produce, he is punished with death at the hand of heaven. The Gemara challenges, and let us derive the punishment by means of a different verbal analogy. Derive the term of desecration written with regard to untithed produce from the term of desecration with regard to meat left over from an offering after the time allotted for its consumption, or notar. See Leviticus 19, verses 6 and verse 8, 6 and 8. Just as there, with regard to notar, he is punished with karet, so to here, with regard to untithed produce, he is punished with karet. The Gemara answers, it is reasonable to say that he should have derived the punishment for partaking untithed produce from terumah, as there are many elements common to terumah and untithed produce. Unlike notar, they are germane to the halachot of terumah. They are not in effect outside of Eretz Yisrael. Both of them can become permitted, as an impure priest can immerse and partake of terumah. Untithed produce can become permitted by taking terumah and tithes. In both cases, the term of desecration is formulated in the plural, while with regard to notar, it is formulated in the singular. Both apply to produce, and neither of the halacha of an offering that was sacrificed with the intent to consume it after its designated time, or pigul, nor the halacha of notar apply in either case. The Gemara rejects that conclusion. On the contrary, he should have derived the punishment for the partaking of untithed produce from notar, as there are elements common to notar and untithed produce. Both cases relate to the unfitness of the food, while in the case of an impure individual partaking of terumah, it is a person who is unfit. And in both cases, there is no permission granted by means of immersion in the ritual bath. While in the case of an impure individual partaking of terumah, immersion is effective. The Gemara answers, those elements common to terumah and untithed produce are more numerous. Therefore, that is the preferred derivation. Ravina says, there is no need for a tally of common elements, as deriving desecration in the plural by means of a verbal analogy from desecration in the plural is preferable. The Gemara continues to analyze the Baraita. From where do we derive that an impure priest who partook of pure terumah is liable to receive death at the hand of heaven? It is derived, as Shmuel says, from where is it derived with regard to an impure priest who partakes of pure terumah, he is punished with death at the hand of heaven? It is derived from a verse, as it is written with regard to a priest who partakes of terumah, quote, and they shall keep my charge, lest they bear a sin for it and die therein. If they desecrate it, I am the Lord. Leviticus 22, verse 9. The Gemara asks, from where is it derived that for partaking of ritually pure terumah, yes, the impure priest is liable, but for partaking of impure terumah, no, the priest is not liable? It is derived, as Shmuel says, that Rabbi Eliezer says, from where is it derived that an impure priest who partakes of impure terumah is not punished with death at the hand of heaven? It is derived from a verse, as it is stated in that verse, and die therein if they desecrate it, to the exclusion of terumah that is impure and already desecrated. The Gemara continues in its analysis of the Braita. A non-priest who partook of terumah is liable to receive death at the hand of heaven. Rav says a non-priest who partook of terumah is flogged. Rav Kahana and Rav Ashi said to Rav, let the master say that he is punished with death at the hand of heaven, as it is written, and they shall keep my charge, lest they bear a sin for it and die therein if they desecrate it. I am the Lord, who sanctifies them. No non-priest shall eat of the sacred. A tenant of a priest or a hired servant shall not eat of the sacred. Leviticus 22, verses 9 through 10. Based on the juxtaposition between them, one should say, just as an impure priest who partakes of terumah is punished with death at the hand of heaven, so too a non-priest who partakes of terumah is punished with death at the hand of heaven. Rav responded, the phrase, I am the Lord who sanctifies them, ends the matter of death, so that the matter of a non-priest who partakes of Terumah is not juxtaposed to it. The Gemara raised an objection to the opinion of Rav from the Braita. And these are they who are liable to receive death at the hand of heaven, a non-priest who partakes of Terumah. The Gemara explains, are you raising a contradiction from a Braita in the opinion of Rav? Rav is a Tana, and as such, so Tana is someone from the Mishnah, and as such has the authority to dispute the determination of the Braita. The Braita continues, the punishment for a non-priest who performed the temple service is death at the hand of heaven. As it is written, you and your sons with you shall safeguard your priesthood with regard to every matter of the altar, and any non-priest who approaches shall die. Numbers 18, verse 7. And the Braita continues, the punishment for an impure priest who performed the temple service is death at the hand of heaven. The source for this is explained as Rav Chia bar Avin asked of Rav Yosef, from where is it derived that an impure priest who performed the temple service is punished with death at the hand of heaven? Rav Yosef answered, it is derived from a verse as it is written in the context of admonishing priests to avoid impurity. Speak to Aaron and his sons that they separate themselves from the sacred items of the children of Israel, that they sanctify me, and they shall not desecrate my sacred name. I am the Lord. Leviticus 22, verse 2. Rav Yosef continues, and the Tana derives the punishment by means of a verbal analogy. He derives the meaning of the term of desecration written with regard to an impure priest who performs the temple service from the term of desecration written with regard to an impure priest who partakes of Terumah. Leviticus 22, verse 9. Just as there, with regard to Terumah, he is punished with death at the hand of heaven, so too here, with regard to an impure priest who performs the temple service, he is punished with the death at the hand of heaven. The Gemara asks, and let us derive the punishment by means of a different verbal analogy. Derive the term of desecration written with regard to an impure priest who performs the temple service from the term of desecration written with regard to notar. This would teach that just as there, with regard to notar, he is punished with karet, so to here, with regard to an impure priest who performed the temple service, he is punished with karet. So the Gemara answers, it is reasonable to say that it is from Terumah that he should have derived the punishment for an impure priest who performs the temple service, as there are many elements common to an impure priest who partakes of Terumah and an impure priest who performs the temple service. In both of these cases, unlike notar, the problem relates to the body of the priest. Both relate to impurity. In both, the issue can be resolved through immersion in a ritual bath, and in both, the term of desecration is formulated in the plural, while with regard to notar, it is formulated in the singular. The Gemara rejects that conclusion. On the contrary, it is from notar that he should have derived the punishment for an impure priest who performs the temple service, as there are elements common to notar and an impure priest who performs the temple service. Unlike Terumah, both are cases involving sacrificial matters. Both involve acts performed inside the temple, and in both cases the disqualification of pigul and the disqualification of notar are applicable. The Gemara explains, although the number of elements common to an impure priest who partakes of Terumah equals the number of elements common to notar, deriving desecration in the plural by means of a verbal analogy from desecration in the plural is preferable. The Braita continues, the punishment for a priest who was ritually impure, who immersed that day and is waiting for nightfall for the purification process to be completed, and who performed the temple service, is death at the hand of heaven. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive this halacha? The Gemara answers, it is derived, as it is taught in a Braita, that Rabbi Simai says, from where in the Torah is the allusion with regard to a priest who immersed that day, and if he performed the temple service, he desecrated that service? It is derived from a verse, as the verse states, they shall be sacred to their God, and they shall not desecrate the name of their God. Leviticus 21, verse 6. If this verse is not written with regard to the matter of an impure priest to perform the temple service, as that halacha is derived for us from the verse that, quote, that they shall separate themselves from the sacred items of the children of Israel, Leviticus 22, verse 2. Then apply it to the matter of a priest who immersed that day who performed the temple service. Although he is no longer impure in every sense, the priest remains impure in terms of prohibitions of partaking of terumah and sacrificial food and of entering the temple. And the Tana derives the punishment. The Tana is from the Mishnah. So in the Tana derives the punishment by means of a verbal analogy. He derives the meaning of the term of desecration written with regard to a priest who immersed that day who performed the temple service from the term of desecration written with regard to an impure priest who partakes of terumah, Leviticus 22, verse 9. Just as there, with regard to terumah, he is punished with death at the hand of heaven, so too here, with regard to an impure priest who performs the temple service, he is punished with death at the hand of heaven. The Braita continues, and the punishment for a priest who is lacking the requisite priestly vestments and who performed the temple service is death at the hand of heaven. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that this is the punishment, his punishment? Rabbi Abahu says that Rabbi Yochanan says, And there are those who determine that this halakha is a tradition that was cited in the name of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon. It is stated, "You shall gird them with a belt, Aaron and his sons, and you shall wrap the headdresses upon them, and they shall have a priesthood as an eternal statute, and you shall inaugurate Aaron and his sons." Exodus 29, verse 9. From that verse it is derived, "At a time when their vestments are upon them, their priesthood is upon them. But when their vestments are not upon them, their priesthood is not upon them. Therefore, the priests who are lacking the requisite priestly vestments assume the status of non-priest in this respect." And the master says, what is that? Amar mar. Earlier in the Baraita, a non-priest who performs the temple service is punished with death at the hand of heaven. The Baraita continues, "And the punishment for a priest who has not yet brought an atonement offering to complete the purification process and who performs the temple service is death at the hand of heaven." The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that this is his punishment? Rav Huna says, it is derived from a verse, as the verse states, with regard to a woman after childbirth who is obligated to bring an atonement offering. It says, quote, "And the priest shall atone for her, and she shall become purified." Leviticus 12, verse 8. He infers, as the verse states, quote, "shall become purified." By inference, one concludes that until the priest sacrifices her atonement offering, she is impure to a certain extent. And the master says, earlier in the Baraita, an impure priest who performs the temple service is punished with death at the hand of heaven. The Baraita continues, "In the punishment for a priest whose hands and feet are not washed and who perform the temple service is death at the hand of heaven." The Gemara asks, from where do we derive this halakha? The Gemara answers, it is derived from a verse, as it is written, "Whenever they come to the tent of meeting, they shall wash with water, and they shall not die." Exodus 30, verse 20. The Baraita continues, "And the punishment for priests who perform the temple service while intoxicated with wine is death at the hand of heaven, as it is written, 'Drink no wine nor strong drink, you and your sons with you, when you come to the tent of meeting, that you shall not die.'" Leviticus 10, verse 9. The Baraita continues, "And the punishment for the priests who performed the temple service with overgrown hair on their heads is death at the hand of heaven, as it is written, 'Neither shall they shave their heads nor allow their hair to grow long.'" Ezekiel 44, verse 20. This is referring specifically to the priest. "And it is written thereafter, quote, 'Neither shall any priest drink wine when they enter the inner courtyard.'" Ezekiel 44, 21. One with overgrown hair on his head is juxtaposed to priests who are intoxicated with wine. Just as priests who are intoxicated with wine are punished with death at the hand of heaven, so too priests with overgrown hair on their heads are punished with death at the hand of heaven. The Baraita continues, "But a priest who performs the temple service while uncircumcised or as an acute mourner on the day that one of his close relatives dies, or a priest who performs the temple service while seated, is not punished with death at the hand of heaven. Rather, he is liable for violating a prohibition, and his punishment is lashes." The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that it is prohibited for an uncircumcised priest to perform the temple service? Rav Chisda says, this matter we did not learn from the Torah of Moses, our teacher. It was not learned until Ezekiel, son of Buzi, the prophet, came and taught it to us. As it is stated, "No foreigner uncircumcised in heart." And I'll continue that. It's in 84, "or uncircumcised in flesh may enter my temple." Ezekiel 44, verse 9. But that's the end of 83, so thank you.